Joining me now is Ivon Sampson. He's a specialist immigration lawyer at Privatus Law. Good afternoon to you, Ivon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, let's just talk about basically Rishi Sunak teaming up with the likes of Giorgia Meloni. She was elected very much on the premise from her voters in Italy that they wanted this particular issue dealt with. It's a much more serious issue it is crisis levels in Italy in terms of the number of people arriving on the Mediterranean over from Tunisia mainly at the moment. Do you think he is going to be getting a lot of support? Would you expect him to be getting a lot of support from other countries in Europe? Is this as big an issue for many other European leaders?
If his policy is that we withdraw from the European Convention, I'm afraid I can't see him getting loads of support from that. At the moment, the Illegal Migration Act is incompatible with the European Convention. And because of that, as you know, on Monday, the Supreme Court will decide whether the Rwanda policy is lawful in Rwanda. And that's not what the High Court said back in June. What they've said is that excuse me, they don't have a good system, a competent system for deciding an asylum application. It's deficient. It's quite ironic because they said the Rwanda system's deficient when really it's our system that's deficient. And what they're saying is that even if when somebody's refused in Rwanda, there's a possibility they could be sent back to their home country. Now, if the decision is flawed, then that would be refoulement, which is sending them back from where they came. And that's incompatible with the Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights. The problem also is that incompatibility, this is a really important point, is that the way you enter the UK is different in the Illegal Migration Act as opposed to the Convention. So the Illegal Migration Act says if you come here illegally, and the correct word is irregular, then you can be sent to Rwanda. The convention doesn't allow that. So there's a real
and you can never have a right to claim asylum here and actually live here. It's very specific about that route. But then lots of people would argue there aren't any safe and legal routes in from pretty much, there's only a handful of countries like Ukraine, from Hong Kong, of course, and Afghanistan for a very tiny number of people. Otherwise, there aren't actually very many legal routes. But look, this is the thing. There's a poll carried out by this group of Tory MPs, New Conservatives, basically showing, a majority support. A majority of the public would like us, if we can't get this policy through, the Rwanda policy through, if the European Convention of Human Rights clashes with that, well, then we leave the European Convention. Now, we know this case is going to go to the Supreme Court next week. We won't get a ruling until November. There's even some concern, reported in the papers today, that the Prime Minister and Downing Street are worried that the Attorney General, Victoria Prentice, could even if the Supreme Court allows it, that she would say if the European Convention, the European Court says it's wrong, then it's illegal and we can't do it. The bit I don't understand is courts are supposed to effectively interpret and apply the law. But laws are made by democratically elected politicians. We have a democratically elected government. People say they didn't directly elect Rishi Sunak. That's not how our system works. They've got a majority. It's gone through Parliament. The policy is a popular policy, even among many Labour voters, not just Tory voters. This is what the people want to happen. And then it's going to be thwarted by unelected, unaccountable judges, either here in the UK or in Strasbourg. That's no way to run any system at all, isn't it? Surely a government has a right to make a new law.
It does. Every government has a right to make a new law, and if the people don't like it, they elect a new government, and that's why we have
elections. Well, there's no point. If we elect a new government, they try and do this, and then it's struck down by the courts.
Well, look, Rishi Sunak, if the court decides that the Rwanda policy is unlawful, let's say on Monday, the court says it's unlawful, Rishi Sunak can still return people to Rwanda. We have that right. Now, we'll be in breach of an international treaty. He has to take that into account. Also, it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court does because the European courts will issue interim Rule 39 interim injunctions.
These are sort of called pajama orders, aren't they? And we had this with the Rwanda flight that was planned back earlier in the year, where people were sitting on the tarmac at the airport, and one by one people were taken off because they've lawyers on their behalf saying that they shouldn't be sent. And basically a judge in a foreign court basically late at night in their pyjamas, effectively, said, oh, we're not sure about this, so you can't do it until we're sure about it. Now, I'm not sure that most British people think that that is how we should run our immigration policy.
No, I agree with you. I do agree. I think governments should have the right to enact their own laws. This is the problem. If we come out of the convention, we're going to be at loggerheads with the EU.
Oh, no.
And I think you'll find there'll be a lot more people crossing the channel. Because what you're going to find is the EU doing absolutely nothing to stop people coming straight to the UK.
They're not doing much already.
I think it'll get worse. I think whatever they are doing, I think you and
so they'll punish us. But again, this is the thing. It's the idea that the EU or France or any individual country in Europe has the right to punish us because they don't like a policy that we're enacting on our own shores. I thought we had a vote. Didn't we do something? Help me, people. Did we do something in 2016 so this wasn't the case anymore?
No, the withdrawal agreement didn't think about all this, and I'm afraid politicians didn't think about it.
Well, that we'd take a punishment beating from our so-called friends and allies in Europe because we had the temerity to enact a democratic vote. How dare we?
Well, look what the French do with Italy and France do. French return people to Italy if they cross the border. They've been very successful at it. If the French wanted to, they could stop the boats.
Of course they could.
If the EU wanted to,
they
could stop them. Well, that may well be the case.
You've just said they're able to return people to Italy. I mean, Italy doesn't want them. Italy didn't want them in the first place. Giorgia Meloni actually attempted in her very early days in government to actually just not allow boats to dock. There you go. You can't dock, so don't bother turning up. You know, you can only go do that for so long.
We need an international treaty with the EU, and then we can enforce it in the courts, the very courts that we're actually criticising. We can enforce those treaties in those courts. And if countries don't do it, they get punished with huge fines. We've got to work with the EU.
All right.
We cannot get into a conflict with them.
All right. Ivon Sampson, great to talk to you. So appreciate you taking the time. He's a specialist immigration lawyer.